welcome to the afternoon session. I hope you're well fed, everyone. If you did not get to try the dessert, try and get some later. It's really nice. Anyway, we are going to start with one of the topics which I really like. Of course, software is nice and everything, but now we are going to hear about something which actually matters for humanity, like safekeeping information for future generations. And without much further ado, over to Gerard van Engelen. Sorry.
Does it work? Yeah. Okay. So welcome everybody. Hope you had a nice lunch. I'll try to be not so boring, so you all have the after dinner dip. My name is Gerard van Engelen. I'm a DevOps platform engineer. Been working in IT for 10 years. Currently working at the National Library of the Netherlands on a platform to store the Dutch literature. I'll probably break my tongue on that word lots of times, but I'll try to do my best. So what is the National Library of the Netherlands? The National Library of the Netherlands is a semi-government organization that has three basic roles. It's to preserve the Dutch literature. So we have documents dating back to the 1600s. And on a daily basis, we process all kinds of literature like scientific papers, books, adult literature, that sort of stuff. There's actually a fun fact about the adult literature. We store that in a vault because it gets stolen a lot of time. Yeah, so always a good one. The second role is doing research. So there are multiple organizations in the Netherlands that use the Dutch library for research purposes. One of them, I think one of the examples is that in the Second World War, there were a lot of airplanes going down in Asia with Dutch soldiers in it. And using linguistic research on the Dutch newspapers that were produced in Indonesia, they were able to find soldiers that washed up ashore, and then they could inform the next of kin that their family was found somewhere in Indonesia, for example. And that was the research was done a couple of years ago. So you could see that even after 80 years, literature still adds value to humanity. And the last one is to connect people around the world, but mainly in the Netherlands, by making the Dutch literature available in a digital way, but also in a physical way. I want to share a couple of numbers to show how impressive the National Library is. But to be honest, yesterday I attended the CERN talk, and he presented other numbers, and it was like, okay, these are rookie numbers, but still. One thing we got the CERN on is the particle accelerator is only 22 kilometers long, and we got 120 kilometers of books, so got you there. But we store 3.5 petabytes of digital literature, and it's growing with 300 to 400 terabytes a year. So I estimated it a bit low, but let's be optimistic. And we have literature dating back 406 years, and we make it available 24/7. So one of the examples that we have to make this literature available is this website. You can visit it. It's delver.nl. And it's a website where you can go and you can type any word, name that you want. And if it's somewhere in a newspaper or in one of the digital assets that we have, it will be presented to you. So this is one of the, lightweight examples. Well, the application is not lightweight, but lightweight examples that we have to connect people through literature. So this is just one of the examples that we have. We have also more digital apps that process all of our books, that store it. So you can imagine that with all these data that we have, that there's a lot of IT going on in this organization that might at first look like an old and boring company, but it's not. And we started our observability journey last year, and I want to take you with me on the journey why observability is important for an institute like the National Library. So, why do you do observability? Well, first, it's just the law. We are legally obligated to store logs for well, a minimum of 6 months, depending on what kind of application we use. So currently we're doing this on the server itself, but it's hard to keep the retention times correct. So we wanted to use observability to to obey the law, basically. Also, we want to provide an excellent customer experience. I think we all write software to solve a problem, and if the problem is not solved, the software is not working. And if you don't know that your software is not working, how can you then act upon it, right? Next is we want to be able to steer on real-time information. If you're storing a lot of information, you want to be able to make analysis and plan your expenditures. So in the case of the Dutch library, we are expanding our storage a lot of times, and you want to be able to plan that up front, and observability helps us with that question. And last but not least, because dashboards look cool, we all know these big screens in operation rooms where dashboards go up and down. I think it looks cool, and we want to have things that look cool, right? So we started off with some basic requirements. This is not an exhaustive list, but this is a list of some of the things that we took in consideration when starting our observability journey. Well, we want to have metrics because we want to know how our application is performing. We want to have log retention because it's the law. We want to be able to do simple analytics on our logs because just plain logs is hard to go through. Because we're a government organization, we are a bit, well, anti-cloud. Well, it's not that we're anti-cloud, but cloud is sometimes a bit difficult in government organizations because the process, the tenders take a long time and are expensive. So if we can do it on-prem, we want to do it on-prem. Our service should be high available, and it should be easy to use. So we took these very, well, rudimentary requirements and started to do a comparison. So it's Grafana versus Splunk, but we also looked at other tools. I put Splunk up here because the National Library was using Splunk before we started the observability journey. Most of the things that we could do with Splunk, we could also do with Grafana, but in the end, we looked at these attributes, and we came up with Grafana for being number one. And one of the things for Grafana was that it was really easy to use for the developers. So once you get your infrastructure rolled out, the developer experience is pretty easy, but I think most of the people that are using Grafana probably already know this. But one of the other things is that it meant a cost reduction of nearly 80,000 euros a year. So that's a nice one for the OPEX. And there are other there were other benefits like the Grafana stack really supports almost every question that we had. So after making the decision to go for Grafana, we started to focus on one part of the software delivery lifecycle. I actually stole this from the slide deck that I got from Grafana. I didn't change anything, but it it shows what we were doing. So we wanted to enable the teams to be able to support the part of the software delivery lifecycle after deployment. And therefore, we created our own Grafana landscape. And I'll try to explain a bit what we did here. So first of all, we deployed 2 Grafana servers on bare metal VMs with a Postgres database behind it. And then behind that, we deployed 3 Mimir applications and 3 Loki applications, both running in monolithic mode. I'll tell a little bit about that on later slides. And then for all the applications that are running on virtual machines in our landscape, we installed the Grafana agent, which scrapes the logs and then scrapes the Prometheus endpoints and puts those metrics and logs into into Loki and into Mimir. And to be able to do this, we use Ansible. So we created our own Ansible collection, which rolls out the Grafana server, the Grafana agent, Loki, and Mimir. And we wanted to do this to take away the pain for other development teams in rolling out this landscape. They don't need to be bothered with it. But what we really wanted to achieve was ease of use for all of our developers. So actually the only thing that you need to do if you have this is configure your Grafana agent to scrape the right things. And while Grafana agent is relatively simple, you have to do some configuration. And if you use Ansible, you can do some templating. But if you don't use templating, the configuration will look something like this without the variables. It's actually a lot easier than it looks. But we were thinking this is maybe a bit too technical, well, not too technical, but it's a bit too technical for our developers, so we wanted to make it easy for the developers to use. So we templated this out, and actually the only thing that they need to do when defining their infrastructure as code is define a variable with an app name and a port number, and then they're good to go. So everything else is rolled out automatically. So if a team wants to start using our Grafana landscape, 2 variables, and then they're good to go. Once we did that, we created 2 basic dashboards. And actually this is a standard dashboard from the Grafana library, which was created for Java Spring Boot apps in Kubernetes. But we did a little bit of fine-tuning to make it work for our hardware infrastructure. And basically the teams that opt in for monitoring, they can go to this dashboard. They can select their application, which server, the lifecycle environment. They can select their team, and or one of those variables, and then the dashboard will show them all the relevant data that is needed to maintain a Spring Boot app. So then this one dashboard, it provides insights in your application metrics, but there's also logs. And we created a separate dashboard for that as well, which is also coming from the Grafana dashboard repository with a little bit of National Library magic around it. Same variables as with the previous dashboard, and it shows logs. And yesterday I was present during the keynote, and they were presenting the log exploration feature. And I was thinking this dashboard can go into the trash because that the metrics explorer or the log explorer is actually doing almost the same as this and then better. So that's a nice feature. I think it will be the first thing that I will discuss tomorrow when I go back to the National Library. And that's actually the. It sounds maybe not like that much, but it helps our teams to be able to debug issues relatively quick. So if a product owner or somebody else comes to the team and say, we have a problem, they can start using these two dashboards to really drill down into the issues relatively quick without, a minimum amount of configuration. And but this is not the end for the National Library, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. What's next? Well, we did not do anything with alerting yet, because we wanted to start quickly and enable teams to do their debugging first. But for the next 3 months, we'll be working on alerting to help teams be more proactive in the issues, because you don't want a product owner to come to your table and say, hey, we have this issue and that we don't know about it. So that's one thing. We didn't do anything with tracing yet. So we're going to adopt the full LGTM stack. And we're going to use Pharo for front-end observability, because most of the things that we did until now was for back-end applications. And we figured that Grafana Pharo will really help us in completing that observability stack. And the last but not least, some highlights. I said teams enrolled within a day of effort, but actually it's 2 lines of code. So the effort is maybe a second or a minute. I put a day because we have to wait for pull requests every time. But still relatively quick. Well, the observability via Prometheus is something that the teams really like. You see eyes opening when we first show them the dashboards. The log analytics is really cool. And one of the things that I did not talk about was single sign-on. It's even if you deploy it yourself, it's really simple. I think if you can write YAML, you can do it within an hour. I really enjoyed implementing this at the National Library. The teams that are using Grafana until now are also very enthusiastic. And if you want to do something with Grafana on bare metal machines, you can always contact me, because I'm also in contact with Grafana about distributing our collection to be used open source.